Hi drummers, Gary Williams here, your drum set mastermind and creator of the Drumset Artistry Mastermind Group. I hope you're doing well. This is part 2 in my series on books I've been through. So starting out, we're going to look at the Gary Chester's book, The New Breed. This is kind of the Mount Everest of method books. A lot of drummers get excited when they hear about what this book can do, but then they don't really climb the mountain very high. It's super, super challenging. Why? Well, because you have to use your voice, and this is the big thing that a lot of drummers omit. Again, like other books, there is instructions at the beginning, an introduction, and you can see he has this whole concept of right-hand side of the kit, left-hand side of the kit. He's got 2 sets of closed hi-hats, a regular set of hi-hats, a right and left ride. It's amazing. He really approached the kit in a very unique way, and he goes through this whole concept of the importance of singing and how you're supposed to use your voice in all these different ways. First, making it sound like a click. So as you're going through the different systems of exercises, you have these patterns here that your hands play, or your hands and feet, and then you got in here, after you go through these patterns, you've got these melodies. So you go through all these melody rhythms with these systems that your hands are doing, but you have to do sometimes the systems 5 times. Why? Because you got to sing a click, then you have to sing the ride part, then you have to sing the hi-hat part, then sing the bass drum part, then sing the snare drum part. It's absolutely incredible what it does, and it truly does what the author says. So if you really want to take your drumming to the level beyond anything you know you can do already, this is the book to do it. Highly, highly recommend it, but make sure you get through a lot of other ones before you tackle this one. These advanced systems are also really, really involved, but really cool stuff. So I went through the whole book and really got tons and tons of stuff out of it. Okay, the world of Latin. So after I graduated from undergraduate school with a bachelor's degree in music, I moved to Seattle and really started getting heavily into Latin. These books from the Drummers Collective series started coming out. Afro-Cuban grooves for bass and drums, Lincoln Goines and Robbie Amin. Awesome. The subtitle Funkifying the Clave, because they took traditional Afro-Cuban rhythms, like from this book, which I also went through, which was more traditional Afro-Cuban rhythms. Very, very cool book with some nice photos and history in there. But this book actually made it sound more modern. And Robbie Amin's kind of like an Afro-Cuban Steve Gadd, just super cool, really nice stuff, really great transcriptions of all these different grooves and bass parts too, so you really get inside the mind of the bass player, and then he shows you setup, transcribes some of the parts, some of the other players on here, cowbell setup. It's really involved. I mean, this book's very detailed. I spent a long time going through all these chapters. The coolest part about it, look at this whole Afro-Cuban 6/8. Great stuff here, is the 6 full-length play-along tracks that are in the back. So this is where it really, the rubber meets the road, so you can actually play with the drummer or you can play without. And so I went through all 6 of these really in detail, and still to this day play this one track in here called Afro Waltz when I do clinics. I just have it memorized, so there it is. Anyways, great book. And it dovetails with this really great book, which is kind of essential if you really want to understand clave and just all the subtleties, cascada rhythms, mambo rhythms. Huge, deep stuff. This one is amazing. Brazilian Rhythms for Drum Set. Awesome, awesome book. Oh man, it starts out like this other Afro-Cuban one with some nice little bit of historical stuff, some interesting photos, talks about the surdo drum. The coolest thing is this whole part here that they do, the batucada. Now what's going on here is they show you, or actually play for you, recording of all these different drums, low, high surdo, ganza, snare, tamborim, anyways, and then one by one, they dim the volume, and one by one they bring up each instrument so you can hear the sound of each individual instrument in the entire Brazilian percussion group. And so they talk about these instruments, and then they show you how you can take some of the traditional instruments like the surdo drum and put it on a floor tom. And so this is where you really start to get deep into Brazilian style drumming. Very, very cool. Samba, bossa nova, baião, some other stuff in here. Learning about things like partito alto. It was just really cool. Very cool. Some recommended listening. I just got tons out of this book. I really, really liked it. The audio recording's fabulous. About this time, Weckl hit the scene with his book, and I spent a year on this bad boy, almost, because I didn't really understand odd meter. And in his video, and in here he goes into it, he learned it from the Stan Kenton camps, where Hank Levy, who was an arranger and composer for Kenton in the 70s, had this halftime approach to odd meters where you split the major into half. And so he introduced that, plus he introduced a songo, and then there's a tune that was in 7/4, a songo, and you had to solo. It was super challenging to pull all this stuff off. I didn't do every single track as much as the few of them I did. Garden Wall, Island Magic was the one that I really liked. Spur of the Moment was very popular. I did a little bit of Rainy Day. I actually played through all of them, but I really appreciated a few of them in particular. So got tons out of this book. From there, I really wanted to understand more reggae drumming. I was way into Stuart Copeland, so this was one of the few books that was on the scene. I don't think it's in print anymore, The Art of Reggae Drumming, but it really kind of described the difference between the 1-drop, the 2-drop, the 4-drop, or steppers, and the triplet feel versus the straight 8th-note feel. Just kind of basic stuff for guys who've listened to this music. For somebody who hadn't really gone into it too deeply, I really wanted to get some resources from an experienced guy. Transcriptions were also helpful. And then I just did a ton of listening and then played along with some reggae stuff. I could go off on that. There's other books I went through. At that point, it was mostly just listening. But this got me started. These books here by Steve Houghton are some of the coolest earlier books prior to the Tommy Igoe Groove Essentials 1.0 and 2.0. These were Tom Warrington and Steve Houghton. Steve Houghton is one of the finest educators for drummers ever. He's got fabulous books. I'll be talking about even more of them coming up, but these are fabulous because this was the first time a book really came out that really kind of went through styles. The top categories: funk, R&B, pop, rock, fusion. Then we got Latin, Brazilian, Afro-Cuban, and then down here at the bottom was different swing grooves. So wonderful stuff, even odd meter vamp. So I spent a lot of time going through all of these tracks. They're really, really cool. Lots of play along, great musicians. So when you play along with these play along players, you're playing with some really very A-level studio musicians. So highly recommend that book if you want to go back to some of that stuff. Book 2 was cool. That one had 30 tracks. I think this only has 20. Yeah, but it had some cool stuff like ECM. We've all heard that record label, so they kind of had a tune in there in that style. And soca, which is soul calypso, wawanko, gospel Latin. So again, diversifying, learning how to play in some different styles and basic charts for all this stuff. Really, really good stuff. Fabulous material. This is the beast of books. Conversations in Clave by Horacio El Negro Hernandez. He based this book on The New Breed by Gary Chester, the one I started talking about in this video. It uses the same systematic approach, and then you have to, play clave. Obviously, we're doing Afro-Cuban stuff. And I went through this with the left foot. So it took me 5 years from when I started to when I ended. I took major breaks, and then let's see what I got in here, some of my worksheets, because I would write all these things out, transcribe them. Oh yeah, I made a whole bunch of different worksheets using the syncopation book, but you just go through all these things where you have to play these different ostinatos and then one other hand solos. And it just gets more and more involved. More and more and more and more deep stuff. So I penciled in the 3-2, looks like that's the rumba clave. I kind of wanted to go with son mostly. And then I did all these different kind of permutations, and God, it's so deep. You can see all my marks, all the different stages. I kept checking them off because there's all these different things you got to do. And then the Afro-Cuban bell part over these ostinatos so that I could actually manage to coordinate them. I added some more stuff to the book. And then some of these cool recorded grooves that he plays, but oh my goodness, this is an amazing book, but definitely not one for the faint of heart. You'd want to go through really The New Breed before you try to attack this guy. So anyways, there we go with part 2 of what's going to be even some more parts of some other books I went through, and just sharing with you all the stuff that is available out there, and really all the stuff that I know that I could share with you for any of you interested in studying with me. So, all right, I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.